is
PogChamp.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Mechs on Deck. It is Wednesday, August 5th, and today we have two very special guests from the keyboard company that you probably all know, Keycult, Mr. Ride on the Bay, and George. How are y'all doing?
Mood.
Great. Yeah, doing really well. A little tired. I had a busy day today, but we're doing good.
Nice.
Nothing too serious today. Nothing
too
different.
serious.
Nothing different from the usual.
Yeah.
It's
It's just a regular. Is today Wednesday? A regular Wednesday.
regular
Wednesday.
Just a Wednesday in August.
Yeah.
No, guys, if you guys have not heard of them, these are the two gentlemen from Keycult. Keycult is one of the, if not the top tier keyboard design company and keyboard production company. Very, very soon on the production side of doing some fuller scale releases. They make some of the nicest keyboards you will ever see on the internet, and if you get a chance to type in one, I definitely recommend it because they are amazing. So welcome, guys. Thank you for giving us your Wednesday evening.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us again. We had a. I'm told that we had a great time last time, and I am eager to have a great time this time as well.
We hope so as well.
I love it. So as last time we talked, we had a fast four, and I'm really excited for now. Zach, yours was pretty standard, but George's was more of like, I just kind of type on what Zach tells me to type on. And I don't know if that's different now. It's been 8 months since we've had you on. So I'm really excited to see, we'll get that. I think it's just !fast 4. We'll get that doc up to see. We love seeing the changes that people have in their answers.
So prepped for this.
I'm scared. I should have prepped for it too.
We usually prep first time guests, but then we don't the second time because assuming is the best thing you can do.
It was too long ago. It's been like this an entire lifetime.
Hey, you've ran and almost finished a board in that time. So
true.
We're gonna start with you, Zach, right on the Bay. Top 4 favorite switches.
Top 4 favorite switches. I don't know. I don't remember what my answers were last time. I would say that my top 4 favorite switches are. I'm going to put, now this might be controversial, I'm going to put creams in the number 1 slot. And the reason is that once lubed and tuned, I have not yet found something that I like dramatically prefer more. And I really appreciate that they're regularly in stock, that I can get them and that I can use them and that they're the same every single time, at least as of recently. So I'm going to put creams for consistency and because I like the sound signature and I like the feel once they've been tuned up. After that, there were some Nixies in a old G81 3077 with like like an old school Korean made PCB that I bought from Photech on Geekhack way back in the day. And by way back in the day, I mean like 3 or 4 years ago or something like that. And those to this day are probably the nicest linear switches I've ever typed on that board in particular. It's a PCB mount board mounted, just screwed into a plastic case. And for some reason, that whole experience was super, super good. So those are the nicest switches I've ever typed on. I would put them on the second slot because I don't think they can't really be recreated reliably. But those were super, super nice. After that, I would say probably maybe vintage browns for tactile in a Cherry MX 5000. There was one that was circulated around Geekhack a while ago. Like some people passed it on, did like a traveling keyboard thing. Those were super sweet. And then fourth, I don't know. I'm going to pass on number 4.
Ooh.
I don't know if you're allowed to pass.
That's fine. I'm okay with that because you left Topra out. My guy.
That was
The
that
Axe
was
Cobra,
last.
and I'm okay with that.
You know, that's true. I did leave out, and now that you mention it, I left some good ones out too. I do like Topre and I do like Buckling Spring, but I'm going to leave it at those three for now because I've been in MX land for long enough that those are like out of my mind at the moment.
Your top 4 last time were Creams, Buckling Spring, Vintage Browns, and Topra. So that's
Pretty
great consistency.
Pretty consistent.
What about you, George?
I guess it's like the switches that I've enjoyed the most and have been using the most. So I'm not a tactile person, so I'm not going to have any tactile switches in the list. I apologize. And I'm also not a old Pepperidge Farm remembers keyboard hobbyist, so I don't know what Nixie's on the first keyboard.
Throwing shade already. I love it.
I really like Creams. I think that they're my most consistently used switch on all of my personal builds that I've done. Have been Cream builds. I did use Alpacas. And I thought they were really, really good switches. I just the stock spring that comes with them is a little too light for me. So it kind of feels like I'm not the quickest typist, and especially my left hand is really, really heavy. So I do a lot of like double presses and stuff. So I need a heavier spring. And we recently got, so I guess Alpacas are my number 2. Although I think Creams, Black Inks are really, really good. We recently got some
C3 Tangies?
Some Tangies that just
seem really smooth.
And the main complaint that I hear from Tangies is that they don't sound like anything. But I don't care about that very much because most of the time I'm using my keyboard, I'm using it with headphones. So I think that like a good sounding keyboard is like really, really great. But I think that a good feeling keyboard is first for me. And fourth, a nice fresh set of untuned cherry blues. This can't be enough.
I like that.
You can't
like
beat them.
That.
You can get them readily available.
Yeah.
They
come by the thousands.
I can also see Zach's face slowly turning more and more red.
We lost like half our customers.
You're gonna have a lot of canceled orders this evening.
Yeah,
a couple people in chat are already putting like what faces and all credibility lost.
We got one quick question. What are the boys drinking?
So we are drinking a beer from our local brewery, and by local I mean like literally just down the street from Gizmo Brew Works. It is a imperial pepper ale. So it's an imperial ale with some kind of spicy pepper notes in it. It's kind of good. George doesn't like it very much. I kind of dig it. I think it tastes almost more like a cocktail, to be honest, than it does a beer.
Interesting.
The more percentage of this in my blood, the more I'll end up liking it.
I see. Good.
There you go. Hey, it's a stepping stones.
Yeah. All right. So next up will be your top 4 favorite keyboards. Obviously, Keycult boards are not eligible.
2.
Okay, not eligible.
We'll start with you, Ryan.
Top 4 favorite keyboards.
While you think, all of my favorite keyboards are. I haven't used a lot of keyboards, so because I'm newer to the hobby and immediately into my big entry into the hobby.
Like his first major keyboard was the Keycult #1.
So it's like all of the keyboards, and we have a bunch of keyboards that we bought from other vendors that we just haven't had that look amazing. We just haven't had the time to build them. And so I'm gonna skip on this.
Oh my god!
So I
can't believe it's all up to me.
It's all to you to redeem our credibility.
Okay, favorite non-Keycult keyboards. So the keyboard that got me excited about making keyboards was the Dolphin, the Rev 2 in particular. Felt awesome to type on. Really nice experience. Really well made. Just a really cool board. That was probably the first custom that really wowed me and got me interested in MX keyboards. Before that, I was all Topre and Buckling Spring. I am going to say I am going to throw some of those into the mix. Before that, I used for a really long time 55-gram Real Force is a super nice keyboard. Stock Happy Hacking keyboard is a super nice keyboard. And then after that,
Keycult all the way, man.
I mean, I am on a similar boat with George. Like, if I'm thinking about, like, we probably have 4 or 5 keyboards from other makers that I want to build, but the problem is that it takes us so damn long to loop switches that by the time we get them looped, we have like another freaking Keycult prototype that we have to build with them, and we don't have any left over for these other keyboards that we want to build. So I don't know. We have a lot of unbuilt keyboards that I'm really going to enjoy. Almost my entire keyboard collection. And George's as well, for what it's worth, his small keyboard
Yours
collection.
is mine.
Yeah, we sold in order to start Keycult really in 2019 as a business. So anyways, I guess I would put the Dolphin up there as number 1. I would kind of put just like general TFU Topre boards as number 2. Number 3, I would probably say is a 62 key Kish Saver that I have a I forget at this point the actually working old school Model F style keyboard, super nice. And number 4, I'm gonna pass again. I don't know.
We're a 3 family.
Yeah, we're a fast 3 here.
We don't like
fast
this
3.
a whole 4 stuff business.
Well,
We can only count to 3.
We're gonna force you to do 4 on this next one. Sorry, on the last one, we'll force you to do 4. We got 2 more. So the last one, you should have at least 4 if you guys are over the age of 12, which I'm just going to assume you guys are.
Okay, I think is the last one TV shows.
No,
No, it's not. I thought one was TV. We had some conversation about
there was
Parks
a
and
TV
Rec versus The Office last time, but that's a different thing. That's not. Okay,
that's towards the end. So next up, these are the ones that are always interesting because new things are always being released. Top 4 or 3, your choice. Favorite key sets. Top
Favorite
4
key
or
sets.
3 key sets.
I want George to go first this time.
I can go first on this one. I think last time I said that Hamon was probably my most used set, and I will stick to that. There's going to be, I guess I'm a Dixie Mech and Zamumon shill because there's going to be a lot of Dixie Mech and Zamumon here. I honestly, I think Nautilus is up there for me now, and it didn't used to be because I didn't love the way it looked in pictures and renders. And then I put it on a keyboard, and it just looks amazing. I think that 8008 is on my personal board, and it hasn't gone off my personal board. And I acquired a set of Minimal to put on my personal board, and I just haven't removed it. So props to that. And then probably Modern Dolch is, I'm a boring dude, so I like simple key sets without a lot of flair and stuff to them. So I think those are my favorite 4. Give you plenty of time.
Pretty consistent.
Yeah, pretty consistent.
Pretty consistent.
All right, I'm gonna go with Classic Beige, number 1 key set of all time. Modern Dolch, number 2 key set of all time. Original Dolch, number 3 key set of all time. And then
Moto Light.
no, I think I'm probably gonna say Hamon. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's the
Hamon
first.
is a good
It's
set.
the first red key set that has really popped for me, and that I've really enjoyed and like wanted on my keyboard for a long period of time.
I think Hamon is.
I think I was kind of joking about Original Dolch being number 3. I actually think that I would probably do. I'd probably do Hamon at number 3, and then number 4. I don't have a number 4. I don't. I only do past 3.
I like a lot of people are saying there's never going to be a Keycult number 4, just 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
That's actually something we've talked about, and there might not be.
No, I do like original. I do like Original Dolch. Here's the thing that I don't like about Original Dolch is I hate getting so excited to put Original Dolch on my gray keyboard, and then you put it on the keyboard and realize that original
doesn't.
Dolce is actually like a muddy brown, right? Like
Yeah.
it actually like the white balance on it is just like is totally off or whatever.
Yeah, it's
So I've had a
super
number
warm.
of experiences. It's super warm. So I've had a number of experiences where I've been like it was mostly sort of more years ago, sort of, and that's one of the reasons why I like modern Dolce, why I have that up there, is because it has that same feeling, but actually like matches things because it's not super warm. So
I guess we do kind of lean towards the cooler sets, with the exception of Hamon, which is just red. But
Yeah.
you can't call that.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Nice,
So I
cool red.
do actually think that original Dolce is like a badass key set. I just don't know that there are that many boards that in my opinion it goes super well with, because there are very few grays out there that are as warm as modern or as original Dolces.
Yeah, we've been talking about that, and I talked to Cyrus and Langlandia about. There are some sets that I'm like, I think there are some sets that I just really love the colorway, but I can never find a board that I fall in love with it whenever that set goes on the board.
Right.
And like Dolce looks great and it looks cool and it has that vintage look, but then when you throw it on something, you're like, it's not exactly what I envisioned it to be. Whereas other sets like modern Dolce, I'm like, you throw that on almost any gray board and it will look amazing.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Remarkable consistency there for both of you. Because I think, Zach, last time you said
We're all
classic beige, Dolce, modern Dolce, and striker. So
Oh, okay.
only
I was in a
slight
striker mood
variance.
then. I
really
and
like striker.
I do, and honestly, I was between striker and Hamon this time as well.
Yeah.
And I think last time I just let that nostalgia in me get to me to put original Dolce up there so high, and this time I think the realist in me has realized that there's no set that I can use it with, or no keyboard that I can use it with. So
I think that striker and Hamon might be like my only two colorful sets that I really enjoy.
Hmm.
I don't.
Yeah.
I also don't have that many key sets. So send me your key sets, please.
What's up with all these people doing these group buys and then just taking forever to deliver them?
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, we have a lot on order, but
Yeah.
I mean,
People think cafe. We didn't get. I don't think we got cafe, so I haven't seen it. I'd like to see it.
I think it just shipped this week. People should be getting it in the next couple
Yeah.
days.
couple people
Nice.
have already started to get it. So
Last
Second stuff.
of the fast four will be the one that you need to have 4 options for, and hopefully there are 4 things that you like of this category, and that is your top 4 favorite foods.
okay,
Oh,
all right, I
man.
remember this now.
Oof. So many good foods out there.
Top 4 favorite foods.
All my stuff is going to be like number 1, tacos. Best food, NA, fight me. Number 2,
What's number 2?
I don't know. There's so many good foods. So I'm just gonna go with my gut. Like, I
they don't
really
have
like,
to be in a particular order.
Yeah. Okay. So foods I like consistently like the most. I love a good. This is gonna sound boring, but a sandwich, in particular, a club sandwich is optimum.
Oh yeah, you are big on the club
Those will
sandwich.
I'm a
slap,
big-
man.
Yeah, I'm a big club sandwich guy. Number 3, I'll go with like any sort of Thai food. In particular, Penang curry is top Thai food. And number 4, I would say, like right now, these past few, like the other day we had some pho, and I've really been craving it again. And it's just like it's just like soul food. It's just like it makes you, regardless if you're not, even if you're feeling great, your day's only made better by having a good hot cup of pho. So.
Oof.
All right, I'm gonna try to answer this question in a different way, and you can call me on it and tell me that I have to have a regular food. But I was having a conversation with my sister the other day. We speak pretty frequently, and call your sisters. And I asked her, and we ended up having the exact same opinion on this. I said, do you have ingredients where when you see them on the menu, when you see the dish described and you see these ingredients, like that the presence of that ingredient means you're probably going to get that thing, unless there's like some other crazy shit going on that is going to like pull you away or whatever, right? And we ended up having very similar ingredients here. Okay, so for me, I'm going to go with my top 4 favorite ingredients off the top of my head right now that I agreed with my sister on. And that is avocado, feta cheese, pickled red onions, and I can't actually think of a 4th ingredient.
That is all
It's probably steak for what it's worth. It's probably steak as a meat. But like if I see, and God forbid there's a salad with all 4 of those things in it, it is exactly what I'm going to get. Like if there's a steak salad that features all of those ingredients, like that is 100% going to be the item that I order.
Honestly, that'd be a good salad.
It would be a killer salad. I mean, you have to put some lettuce in there or something like that.
Yeah.
But
just a massive soggy onions with feta and avocado on top.
Yeah. So, anyways, you can tell me if I need to make more general real foods. Or
No, you're good.
I enjoy that. That's different, and I enjoy it. That would also make a good taco.
That would.
It would make a good taco.
Pickled. There you go. So
avocado, yeah.
Avocado, yeah.
Oof. Now I'm hungry. I just ate. Now I'm hungry again.
Yeah. We had there was an arepa truck, which is from my native homeland of Venezuela. And we had some arepas for dinner before the show.
That's true. They're pretty good.
That was your number one. That was your number one last time.
The thing is, it's like I tend to not crave foods that I've just had, and I haven't had tacos in a while, and I've kind of been like, craving. And Koi was like, why not hot wings? Because we've been having a ton of wings.
We have been eating a lot of wings. My wife the other day was like, y'all need to stop eating wings. I'm afraid you're gonna die.
What's your favorite wing sauces? Are you going for hot? You going for flavor?
We've been getting a fair amount of Wingstop because that's the wings place that we're closest to, and the one that I've been going back to is the Louisiana Dry Rub. I like sauces, but I don't like being messy. I guess so.
Yep.
I don't like being messy, so I tend to prefer like dry rubs and things like that like don't get my hands and my face super gross. So yeah, and it has like I think a really good flavor to it and a decent enough amount of heat to be interesting.
See, I'm weird. I'm like if this isn't making me cry, then I don't. Then I'm not going to mess with it that much.
Yeah.
Like I love as spicy as you can get it, and then add a little more on top of that. It's so. But guys, once again, I will welcome Keycult if you guys are tuning in, and you do not know.
We made it past the Fast Four.
We made it past the Fast Four. So the Fast 3 in this case. Yeah. But guys, they have run such amazing boards as, let me just list off all of the boards they've ever made because they're all amazing. The Keycult number 1 TKL, the Keycult number 2 TKL, and the Keycult number 160, number 165, and the very soon 265. So very
and
excited.
Eventually there'll be a number 3.
And then the number 3. Yeah. We haven't seen now. I personally have not seen a physical rendition of the number 3. We don't know. We can leave that as secretive as possible, but we will get into that.
So on Instagram that were real pictures of a real thing, but
we also posted there's an Imager album out there with all the kit and caboodle.
True.
So one thing you might not know about us is that we tend to, for keyboards, not do renders. We like to take pictures of physical products. So all of our keyboard pictures are of actual keyboards.
I think we one time released a
we
render of the 265
bump on, or not the bump on, but of the blocker. So not of the 265. The only thing that we did the render of is of the 165 because we needed to render.
Because we messed up a prototype.
Because we messed up a prototype and we needed to show people that it would actually come with a blocker.
Yeah.
So, but very excited, guys. The number 265 is the one that's probably been seen. If you guys have not been checking them out, they do have a Twitch stream. It is very interesting, very different from most of the keyboard streams. and it kind of popped up and blew up. I was really excited to see you guys doing that stuff. I've been tuning in as best I can. They do stream in the mornings, it was a nice change of pace during a lot of the kind of quarantine staying at home. But so you guys obviously, since last time we talked, you added a new member to the family of Keycult, which is a gigantic CNC machine.
It's true.
So, or maybe run us through, what, how that whole process came about. Obviously, that took lots of planning and a very great Instagram story, by the way, of that whole process.
So we've had it in the back of our minds since like 2019, since the very beginning, basically. Like, is it possible for us to do this ourselves, to actually mill these things ourselves, make these ourselves? And that was actually the reason. So our earliest sort of workshop streams, and nowadays our workshop streams are very different from what they were back at the beginning, was with a desktop CNC router, where we would just do like little wood projects and other things like that that had nothing to do with keyboards, really. And that was basically us kind of testing the waters of like, do we enjoy this kind of work? Like, do we enjoy making things and then actually producing them ourselves? And there were some elements of it that we really did enjoy, and other elements of it that we really didn't enjoy when it came to like a desktop CNC router, which is a very, very different beast to what we have right now. I actually don't know if that router made us more or less likely to actually end up with a machine in the end. But
it was hard. Like,
it was
honestly,
hard.
That router, that's why, like, I say on stream, like, if you can get a router and make something that you're happy with, and like a CNC router and make something that you're happy with, you're probably well equipped to deal with like a larger machine, because there's so many like quality of life stuff that comes with the increased price tag of a bigger machine. Like things like the tool changer automatically picking up a new tool, which in our new machine takes less than a second, and the other machine took like 3 minutes to like swap out the tool and remeasure. So yeah, I think it would make us less likely.
So we had been, and then frankly, when like at the beginning of the year, I mean, we're operating a business and we were doing like businesses do, financial planning, and thinking about like, here are our expected runs, here's when we expect to be making, roughly how much money at different times, and like here's a time in the year that we think we could reasonably like actually buy a CNC machine. We were already planning on moving into a new space, which is the space that we're in now. For the entirety of 2019, we were in like basically a room in George's house.
Oh, one room, just one.
Well, I mean, technically, we definitely had complete control of a room of George's house, and then occasional control of the dining room and periodic control of the living room as well. But we realized that we needed a new space, and we started kind of budgeting everything, and realized that like, yes, we want to do this. We think we can do it. We started talking with Salvin, who a lot of people probably know as well, who is a machinist in Belgium, who also does machining streams as well, and has been making keyboards as well. We started talking to him and learning more about the process of actually making keyboards. We realized this was a thing that we could do. It was a thing that we could afford to do, and we were excited and motivated to do it. And then, interestingly, we kind of like just flew under the pandemic. Like, when Chinese New Year happened, and then the pandemic, of course, spread from that point on in China, and everything sort of shut down. That was when we realized like, we are really, really reliant on our manufacturing partners in China in order to run our business. Mm-hmm. And we kind of like did the math and realized that we could swing getting the machine earlier than we originally planned. And we sort of like immediately went into like overdrive mode on finding a space and securing a machine. And we had it in and installed and working before everything had spread all the way to the States, and we actually were like in lockdown. Like, the tech came and did the final installation on our machine like a week before our city was put on like a mandatory lockdown. And I'm extremely glad that happened. I mean, not that the lockdown happened. I'm extremely glad that we managed to get all of that in place before before we were like really affected, because there was a lot of time where things were, and things continue to be, we're still sort of catching up on overseas production. And thankfully we've been able to work on our own stuff here and continue to kind of make progress as a business and as an entity, as Keycult, doing things like our machining streams and things like that, because we got all that into place before all this happened. So we were kind of very lucky in that sense.
And with that, obviously you have to learn how to do the full CNC process. What was learning that like? And then has that in turn, learning that process in turn, changed the way you approach design to your boards moving forward?
So yes and no. I would say that ever since we got I guess I'm going to answer this question because I primarily design our boards. George has some input on some of the like aesthetic elements, but when it comes to sort of the nuts and bolts, I'm the person who designs the boards, decides what all of the internal geometry is going to look like, and ultimately puts the whole thing together. In terms of like the solid models and then the programming of it.
I just yell at him to make it pretty.
Exactly.
Just
I would say
spit on the board and say, try again.
Getting the router and trying to make things on that already was enough impetus for me to start thinking more about designing for manufacturing. And that's like what the kind of term of art is design for manufacturing. It's understanding the processes involved in making this thing a reality, and then working within those constraints. So that certainly helped. And some of it is easy and some of it is hard. Easy things are things like understanding cutter sizes, like the actual physical diameter of the tools that are going to be responsible for milling this product. And the fact that, if you have a extremely tiny radius on a very tall wall, there's no physical way that a very long tool like that can actually mill it away and get any sort of reasonable, decent surface finish. That's kind of the easy part. The much harder part, and the part that I didn't start thinking about until we actually had a like production machine that we have now, is work holding. It's how do you actually hold these parts at all? So when we were doing stuff on our router, literally almost everything we did was like freaking super glued to the table. Like you would put tape on both parts. You'd put tape on the table, you would put tape on the part, you would put some super glue down, and then you smash them together. And like when you're dealing with wood, that's actually a really strong, like that's a really good way of holding things. But it takes forever to do. It's not a good way of like locating things. You then have to manually go in and find like, where your sort of zero position is, where is the point of reference that everything else will be milled from. So that's an okay way to design to mill one thing, but it's not an okay way to mill 300 things, 500 things. So it wasn't until we got the bigger machine that I started thinking more in terms of how do you actually hold these parts repeatably and reliably in a way that does not leave room for error, that gives you the exact same result every single time, and that is a process that is stable today and also 3 months from now and also a year from now when you want to come back to that same design and make it again. So that's the much more complex part that I sort of didn't really start thinking about until I actually had a machine and had that sort of problem in front of me.
The answer for all you new designers is if you can include threaded holes in your parts. Real important. Else people will have to figure out ways to clamp things, and that's just harder.
Well, real quick, big shout out to 159 for the 10 gifted subs. So thank you very, very much. Welcome to
legend.
all the new people who have just now gotten the sub. Also, thank you 159 for subbing yourself, as well as Rick Clack and Commander Bear. Thank you all guys for the subs. We very much appreciate it. My next kind of big question, this is something that I feel like I would have a really hard time doing this, is so now you're starting with the 265, which is new and different. But I'm wondering, so you've started with this, which you do kind of have that board to live up to, right? Which is the number 2 TKL. Have you find you're starting with this new board? Have you found yourself doing trying to either outdo the quality of the number 2 TKL? Do you find yourself making lots of comparisons? Because I would feel like I would have a hard time trying to separate the comparisons between those two, since you're kind of doing the same, but it's kind of different. So how has that whole process been? Also, thank you, Apiary, for the huge
Aw.
raid.
Thank you,
Big
Apiary.
shout
Hi,
out.
Apiary and
Hey
friends.
there. Colony.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, so it's a good question. When we I want to be making things that are as good or better than the things that we had before. I think that already we have become there's a pretty high, I guess I won't speak too much about this, but there's a pretty high quality bar set for Keycult. And part of it is stuff that we've set for ourselves, and part of it is stuff that the community has set for us. And our goal in the things that we mill ourselves is to meet or exceed those expectations. Like, I think it would be probably a little too arrogant to say that like we're absolutely going to outdo everything that has come from us in the past.
But we're absolutely going to outdo everything that comes from us.
But I definitely do want to, and we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't think that we were able to do it. And it's honestly taken quite a long time to get to that point. So we just recently, I mean, we've had this machine for 4 months now, and just in the last 2 weeks, I'm sorry, in the last week, have I gotten something off the machine where I've looked at and been like, this is like borderline perfect. Like this is actually getting to the point where I am extremely like, I was like proud of the stuff that we had done before that. I was like proud of the work that we had done, proud of the parts that we had taken off the machine, but more because I felt like we were making good progress. I was like proud of the progress that we had made. And this was almost the first time where I'd like taken a part off and been like actually proud of the result. Like, I mean, I guess like I was proud of the past results too, but for different reasons. This is the first time where I took something off as like, man, this is actually really, really good. And then like we sandblasted it and it's like, this is actually really, really good. Like this looks like a part that is basically like hand finished, but just came off the machine. We haven't touched it yet, beyond it just coming off of the machine. So I don't know. I definitely do think I don't know whether exactly I'm answering the exact question that you had, except to say that we do hold ourselves up to that same quality standard that we have that has already been set for Keycult. And I am sort of happy to say that we are now getting to the point where I think we are meeting that in the parts that we're taking off the machine. Obviously, I don't think any of this really matters until like you, person watching this, has one of these boards in your hand and is like, yes, I'm comparing this to the number 2 TKL that I have, and this is just as good or better. Like that is going to be the actual final validation for me, because ultimately it's not my opinion that matters. It's like the opinion of the person buying the keyboard. So like basically every day, despite doing all of this, we've been like packing 160s and 165s, getting them out the door. We've been doing tons of QC on like wrist rests and putting those together and getting those packed up. We just generated and started shipping out the first of those today. And in the meantime, we have like every single day been looking for like finishing partners for the 265 who can live up to the quality standards that we've set. And so those are people who are going to anodize or do Cerakoting, because those are things that we can't do in-house. And until we have sort of that entire process from us milling parts to like some finished packaged thing that we're sending out to customers, I won't feel like the job is actually done.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, I think that ultimately, one thing that drives us is always sort of like just being like as transparent as possible, and the fact that we're like we're learning along the way, which is part of the reason why we're streaming. Like we don't want to give. I personally don't like the whole like black box thing where it's like, okay, here is how you start, and then magic happens, and then here's a perfect keyboard. Like I really want people to know that, like, especially with the machining stuff, it's like we are fallible, we are learning, we are moving forward, and here's our progress, well documented, so people can can show it. Like we have broken tools, parts have lifted up. Like we have definitely messed up. Like we are not perfect, nor do we purport ourselves to be like these, like, you know, BD machinists that just know everything. However, like the end result, we still want it to be like a really great looking keyboard on the par of what we've made in the past. And that's part of the reason, honestly, why we're not doing like pre-orders and stuff for these keyboards. It's like we feel like it's important for people to see the finished product of something that is honestly like it's untested.
Like, we're like totally unproven.
Yeah,
or whatever,
they,
as a
they don't.
manufacturer. Like,
People
yeah.
shouldn't take our words for it when we say like, "Hey, we believe that we can make a good keyboard ourselves." So that's the reason why we are, you know, we're like, okay, we're going to make these first, and then we're going to take pictures of them and then send them out to you guys so that you guys can see them and have them and use them, and not being like, okay, we're going to sell 100 of these, wink, wink, and then we'll get them to you whenever we figure it out.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, because it's like you guys understand. And I think for anybody who's doing anything in this hobby, you have to start somewhere, right? You have to, there's the growing process and learn. Like one of my favorite things to do is look at like some of our first YouTube videos and streams, because I'm like, oh my God, they're so bad.
Like, I am amazed that you were able to watch streams of yourself. I have never been able to watch any recording of myself and not cringe like crazy.
We both come from music backgrounds. We both came from editing our voices and having to sit there and listen to each other ourselves. So I think that helped a lot. But going back and watching, I'm like,
that is a skill.
It's rough, and but you know, you can literally go and watch like each month and just like pick 5 seconds of each video, and you can see, oh, like it got better. And then like with the Keycult boards, I know, like, I love that you guys are putting that on stream, because it's like, hey, look, we screwed up. Congratulations. Like, we're not going to send this screwed up board out, because I appreciate that you guys send out what I would call a perfect end product. But you guys people make mistakes. To anybody who designs boards, like, it's not going to be perfect the first time through.
Well, and we've even seen that with the boards that you offer, of not that they were either mistakes or anything was bad, but just having subtle revisions that you do on the same platform and doing revisions of those models, just changing things up, which kind of leads in my next question. Is that something that y'all are planning to continue to do, or will at some point we see things like the number 1 line or the number 2 be retired and go away?
Good question. I don't think right now we have no plans of like retiring any line of boards that we have. I do expect that we will continue to see revisions. Sometimes they might be more major, and sometimes they might be pretty small. Like the like the number 1 Rev 1 revision, for instance, or the 160 Rev 1 revision seems like, I mean, or even the number 1 Rev 1 or whatever, like, seems at first glance to be a pretty minor revision to the original number 1 that I designed in 2017. In reality, it is like a ground up redesign. No component is compatible with the old one. Every single thing is different, down to, you know, like the amount, like down to like the size of individual fillets and chamfers and things like that. It is very much a complete total rebuild based on my sort of evolved aesthetic and understanding of what looks good and what I think looks refined, what doesn't. And that's not to say the original one is bad. It's just to say that, like, this is how I would design it now. And so I expect that we will continue to do that. We will continue to make changes as we, you know, think of things that make it better. For instance, a thing that we included with the boards that we're shipping out right now are these like alignment pins that allow you to align the plate more easily. Just the other day on stream, like, Apiary like had trouble compressing her board because like the top part was kind of like mashing those pins in or whatever, and it like wasn't quite aligning properly. So she had to take out 2 of them and only build it with 2. And like, so on the one hand, I consider that to be like a successful, like, I'm glad that we made that change, because I do think it improves the process of building a Keycult keyboard. But it's also clear that like that isn't the end all be all process of aligning, you know, gasket mount plates or whatever. because there are still some problems involved. Like there are situations that we didn't find ourselves in when we were testing it, but she clearly found herself in. If we hear that other people are finding themselves in a similar situation, then like the next time we do this, there will likely be some changes to that process that make, and it might be a small change. It might just be that like, maybe the bore on the top needs to have a large chamfer on it so that like the pin can kind of slide into place or something like that. But it's still nonetheless a thing that we're like going to address because it's clear that the thing that we have now isn't perfect. So I sort of expect that we will. So far, I don't think we have ever done we've never done a straight re-release of a product.
There's always like little tweaks that we want.
Yeah, like I don't think that. I mean, it's only been a year and a half, but in the 5 or 6 releases that we've done, I don't think we've ever done a straight re-release of an old product. There have always been some kind of small changes to it.
And for what it's worth, like I think that what's less like it's more likely that the design of the board, like the exterior of the board changes, but the design language stays the same, than us eliminating or retiring that design. Like for example, like the number 1 could change. Like we might redesign the number 1 in the future so it is also has no external visible screws, or something like that. And it would still look like a number 1 from the outside, but it would just look different. I think that that's more likely than us saying like, oh, this is just no more for that. We're bored with this design. Because I do like sort of the balance that we've struck in our aesthetics. They seem to work well together, and they and I would rather see them evolve than go away.
Yeah.
Which is nice because I don't feel like there's, especially at least in keyboards, people doing that where they're taking something and then just completely, not necessarily full redesign, but reinventing it in different ways to make it better and better and better and just improve on it over time. In the same way that does get applied in a lot of other industries. A lot of times people they'll release something once and then that's it, and then it's done.
I mean, that's one of the benefits of being a company versus just like one person releasing a board. It's like we have a vested interest in making our product the best, and so does like, for example, like Dixie has the same vested interest in like the Bauer, like, and that's why he's doing a round 2 that has different internals and stuff like that. So like we have a vested interest in like iterating and improving and making it the best that it can be, whereas the person is doing this as like a hobby. And they, it's very common for people to do one group buy and then be like, holy crap, this is a ton of work. I don't have time for this anymore. And then never do it again. So, which is probably why a lot of boards get released once and then, they never come back.
So I kind of want to shift gears just a smidge. We're going to talk more about the 1 and 2, but I want to talk about the 3 real quick, the magic number. So you guys decided to go with Salvin on this one. You released a very different design. It's definitely a stray from what we have seen in the past of a little bit more simplistic. This has let's just say it's not as simplistic, especially to machine. So how did you get to working with Salvin, and can you talk about some of the design process of the number 3?
Sure. So the first thing I guess I'll say, just to kind of like hedge what I'm going to say a little bit, at the moment, the number 3 is a incomplete design. This is based on like the number 3 is a very different design than what we've made in the past. And basically, once we had it all put together in front of us, like actually assembled with keycaps on, we realized that like there were some, like it wasn't good enough yet to be released. Like there were some proportions that seemed wrong. Some things seemed too big. Some things seemed too small. It didn't feel well balanced. It didn't feel like a board that we were ready to release and say, this is like the 3rd ever design from Keycult or whatever. So we are, and this was something that, and it was kind of weird too, because, we kind of felt like we had it until we built it, and then we were like, we don't have it yet. We have to put more work into this for this to be a thing that we're ready to release. That was also why I kind of consider like to a small degree at least, like releasing all of those pictures was kind of a little bit of a false start. We're usually like very close to the chest in terms of like when we release things. We generally speaking don't release things until it's like rock solid, ready to go. The pre-order is in 2 weeks or something like that, right? Like that's when we have announced things. It's usually like we have a date set, and here's where you can see it, and here's when you're going to be able to buy it. And I think we were just so excited about finally having like a concept for a third board that we were really in love with, that we like kind of jumped the shark a little bit on that.
There's also like mitigating circumstances to that. So like there was also like we were going to be releasing another 10 kilos this year, and I don't know if people know our keyboards aren't the cheapest out there, and we wanted to give people as much we wanted to give people as much information that if they were going to try to buy one board from us, they could have the full picture, which is why we released the number 3 pictures with the number 1.
Yeah.
To kind of give people as much information as possible.
And so the number 3 is an example of a board that is designed with a certain manufacturing process in mind. And I don't even know, I need to think of like what is the right term for the, sort of radiating sunburst effect on the side.
Just give it a cool term.
I don't know.
Radiating sunburst.
The sunburst effect on the side. Like can only be milled with a certain kind of setup, with a certain kind of toolpath. And this is something that I talked to Salvin about, and we sort of discussed different techniques of doing it and how we're going to do it and how we're going to make it awesome and look really, really good. And he tried a number of different things in order to come up with something that like actually had a good result, because it is like another thing that I've learned actually programming these machines is it is one thing to think to yourself, here's how the tool could run in order to cut a design, and then actually having it happen. Like there's a lot of complexity that goes on between those two steps that can yield results that are unanticipated. So I guess the question was like, what is the process like working with Salvin, and like working with Salvin on the number 3 in particular?
It's been great.
It's been absolutely awesome. Yeah. Salvin is one of the
he's so communicative. Like honestly, like I truly and sincerely cannot overemphasize how much of a pleasure it is to work with him, because he listens to what we have to say. He's available. He is open to ideas. And even more importantly than on all of those is that he is very transparent about his process, and has, we have a CNC machine that also makes keyboards. A lot of people would have been like, oh, that is competition, I'm not going to help you. And this guy has sat down with us for innumerable amounts of hours and helped us through our process. And I cannot thank him enough for that.
Yeah. So I would say that like, imagine like if anyone here follows Salvin, then, you probably know of his famously long Insta stories, right? Like it's, he had that same level of, that's not just for the public. He does those in private too. Like that is like the level of transparency that you kind of generally expect when working with him. Now I will say, because I don't want to set Salvin up, a thing that we don't love, for instance, is like, I honestly don't love it when people say like Keycult B stock is absolutely perfect, right? You're not going to be able to find a flaw in it, because it sets a standard that we know we can't ever meet. So I don't want to set a standard that Salvin can't meet. Like I think that
your wildest expectations double them.
Yeah. Like he is a very pleasant person to talk to, and is very communicative. And I think it definitely helps as well that like we have really thrown ourselves into the machining aspect, so we're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Like that definitely helps. I think that it is extremely pleasant having another person with going through the same kind of problems that you're going through, who can provide actual potential solutions. And like it's very different when you're talking to someone who's actually machining stuff than when you're talking to someone who is having stuff machined for them. So the fact that both of us are doing this now, and I would say that like, probably like, I hope that I'm more pleasant for him to talk to now than I was at the very beginning of the process when I didn't know anything. Now, as I'm learning stuff, I think it is like,
doesn't get any.
I wouldn't put myself on the same level as him, but it's getting to the point where it does feel a little bit more like a back and forth. And that's, obviously a really nice experience to have with a manufacturing partner or with any business partner, for it to be a back and forth instead of a, here's the information coming from on high that you just have to and you don't get anything else other than that.
And I'm sure it's great that not only he knows all the info about CNC manufacturing and all that, and he has a lot of insight there, but the fact that he's also into keyboards, I'm sure that's huge as well.
And he also understands what the standards are. I mean, it's just really hard. I think the hardest thing about being a manufacturer in this particular space is kind of communicating just how small of defects are considered defects. Like a lot of times, especially like manufacturers in the United States, they're more used to like industrial military applications, which are, okay, this needs to measure this much, but it doesn't really matter how it looks as long as it measures exactly this much. And so it's hard to be like, well, it doesn't really matter what the measurements are as long as it looks nice. They tell you to get out. So yeah, it's been really nice to work with another keyboard person because he understands.
I mean, his reputation is also on the line, sort of. So it feels like a very common ground, and that's kind of the. Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels more like a partnership than a like contracting gig kind of thing, right? Like I don't feel like I would never say that we've contracted Salvin to mill the number 3 or whatever. I would say we've partnered with Salvin to work on the number 3. Like it's a very different feeling to the arrangement we have a long relationship with our manufacturing partner, who I call a manufacturing partner in China. And I use that. I mean, frankly, I use that terminology for a reason, because I think that that's the right mental state to be in, is to think of someone as a manufacturing partner instead of oh yeah, that's my factory, or that's the factory I use. But nonetheless, there's still there's a difference between working with someone who's in the community versus just working with a larger organization that ultimately could kind of replace you. They could replace you with another customer and still kind of be okay with it.
And also with our manufacturer in China, it's also the reason why we call them a partner is because we have grown and we have sort of taken them along with us, in the sense that we have sort of been there have been problems and we've worked through them. So we feel like we have grown with them, and we have been okay, this is what's wrong. This is how you can help. This is how it can be different. This is how it should be different. And they have been very, very open and been okay, this is what we're going to be doing differently. And this is how we're going to charge you for it, because now we need to do more. So yeah.
Absolutely. So very excited to see what comes, because I mean, if you guys haven't checked out Salvin's Twitch channel as well, guys, please go find him. Let me see if I can find that link, or if someone wants to find the link.
Salvin CNC.
Yeah, it's
Salvin
CNC. If someone can post a link to his channel for the easy follow. He also does some awesome awesome CNC work on and it's cool that it's that. All right, cool. We've got two people who kind of pride themselves on good quality work working together. That can only mean awesome things. So as we were talking about at the beginning of the show, pretty standard week for you guys. Nothing too crazy, nothing different, nothing out of the realm of
totally usual,
of a completely normal week. No, you guys just wrapped up your biggest. Well, I guess you guys are a couple days away from wrapping up your biggest group buy yet. I don't know the history of all of Keycult group buys, but I want to say this one has probably doubled the amount of boards in total that you guys have put out, if not more.
Yeah, I think it's definitely so.
It's doubled it.
Yeah, it's doubled it. So we did. I guess I'm happy to go over the history. We released 40 boards at the very beginning of 2019. That was the original 160 and 165. That was our kind of first re-release after the sort of 2017 private group buy that I don't even consider. It's almost like non-canonical Keycult at this point. So in the Keycult canon that is us as a business, we started with the 160 and 165 and 2910. We did 40 boards. Then we released about 20 number twos later in the year. Then we did 75 number ones. So that brings us up to, I don't know, what, 125 or something like that?
Yeah, 135 is what I've got.
135. And then we did 150 number twos. So that brings us up to whatever 285, and then we released 400. Now we're doing 200 160s and 200 number twos. So more than doubling. Sorry, yeah, 160s and 165. Yeah. So more than doubling what was previously available from all of our past releases. Incredible. It has been not easy.
Yeah,
for sure.
I want to talk about just
easy. It has been.
It just in first the QC, because that's a lot of boards to QC. That's a lot of boards.
I think that no offense, no shade, but every time I read or hear that we artificially inflate or limit supply, my thumbs ache a little more, because the number of times that I've had to take a keyboard out of a box, I feel like I have the strongest
grip strength.
And Apiary can attest that our boxes are pretty snug. Yeah. And they're like so I think that so let me preface this by saying that we do QC every board, but that doesn't mean that we don't miss anything, that there are definitely boards out there that have problems with them that we try to address. But yeah, QCing 400 boards is 3 weeks worth of full-time work for one person. So yeah, it sucks. It's it's looking at the same thing over and over again, and fixing small issues, making sure that wearing gloves for full day and then taking off gloves and having pruny hands. And ultimately, I can't complain too much, because this is by far the best job I've ever had, but it is not the easiest thing in the world. And it kind of gives you a little bit of cabin fever at the end of the day.
My least favorite part is the unscrewing. The same thing, just unscrew the plate. I'm like, why did I put 8 screws in this freaking plate?
We're going to a one screw design.
One screw design in this next one.
The uniscrew.
The sandwich mounts, the sandwich mount uni screw.
I think, I mean, it's definitely been very challenging. George took the brunt of the QC work this time. He probably did 80% or more of the QC for the 160 and 165. While I was continuing to work on the machining stuff, and trying to make sure that we were still making progress on that. George really took the lead on making sure that these were going out in a reasonable amount of time. And then the second we get done with that, it's time to QC, disassemble and reassemble 300 wrist rests. And that's what we've been doing. That's what and
QC has been my life for the last month and a half.
So it's it kind of feels like it really never ends. And it's definitely really challenging, and it's also one of the reasons that we're excited about making things ourselves and having having these giant batches. Because the thing that kind of sucks is that this was really hard, and we also just placed an order for 600 keyboards, 600 number ones, right?
That's gonna be different, because thankfully we're partnering with C3, and they're gonna
that's true.
They're adding a level of QC, so
we're still going to be taking. Your thumbs are still. Our thumbs are still going to be aching from pulling all.
But hopefully they'll still be swole by.
Yeah, that's true. You're going to have to keep working on your thumb exercises in the meantime. So I don't know. I think that if we could afford it, we would much prefer to be releasing 200 keyboards a month or something like that every single month, that aren't pre-order, that are just regularly available, because then we could make then instead of having to do these like giant batches of like a huge amount of stuff coming in all at once, it can become like a regular part of our like work process and can be kind of scheduled around, as opposed to just like drop everything, it's QC time.
I mean, there's also like a huge amount of just when you think about, there's a huge amount of like work duplication that goes into like QC when you get something from overseas. Like you have to unpack the boxes, unwrap the keyboards, look over the keyboards, rewrap the keyboards, put the boxes back in, like write out QC cards. So like if we were to have things like made by us in stock, it would just be, I don't have to unwrap anything. I don't have to unbox anything. I can just assemble it, look at it, wrap it up, pack it up. And then so it's like basically half of the job of QC would go away. So that would just be a much more efficient process. And anyways, all of the boards that we're going to be making off this machine are going to be absolutely perfect.
Perfect.
And no one's going to need to QC them because we're not even going to know what we're going to send out. They'll come anodized off of the machine. Yeah. It'll be great.
Yeah.
They'll come pre-assembled. The machine will assemble.
Pre-assembled.
It's the Keycult mystery box. Where you got some shavings in there.
Yeah. You get a couple of parts. The thing is, like, you buy 3 or 4 mystery boxes, and you can put together one cohesive keyboard.
And also, like, so from like a business standpoint and from a business development standpoint, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to hire someone to do QC once every 6 months. That doesn't compute. But if we're making regular keyboards, and if we hire a person to like help us make the keyboards, then it can be part of their regular job to help me QC 200, 150 keyboards a month, which is like all of a sudden we have a path to hiring someone, because one of the big problems with hiring someone in the keyboard hobby is that everything takes months and months and months and months and months to do. So it's like if you have an employee, they're going to be sitting around a lot. But like if you have a more traditional cash flow, and if you have a more traditional like cadence of sale, then you all of a sudden have a lot more stuff for them to do. So yeah.
And so with that, moving forward, I imagine that you're going to be continuing to up the amount, or at least stay where you're at as far as the number of boards that you're offering. What would you...
Do you mean for pre-orders?
Yeah.
I would be surprised if we upped the amount.
I would say, so we just did 600 keyboards, and I would say given the experience that we had QCing the 400 that just went out now, I would be pretty surprised if we upped the amount for an individual pre-order from that 600 mark. That's not to say that we won't ever like do it, or that more Keycult boards won't be available, but ultimately it's just like there's only so much time, man. that we can spend, and the 2 guys could spend QCing in a year and still like want to live in the next year. So
we've
thumbs fall off.
Sort of. Yeah, no thumbs. Just
right.
4-finger George. We've talked about this a lot, and we talk about this in our streams. It's like sort of like deciding what kind of company we want to be and what kind of company we want to grow into. And one of the things that we've been deciding for most of 2020, for all of 2020 and some of 2019, is that like we don't really want to be a logistics company. We want to be a company that is more focused on making things, not like shipping things out. Because those 2 companies are fundamentally different companies.
Yeah.
So I think that to that vein, having larger and larger pre-orders would make us a logistics company. But that's not the only way that we can produce and sell more keyboards. So I think that moving forward, unless something changes, which it very well might, we're going to be focusing on like making more as a means of giving people more chances to buy our stuff.
Yeah, I think that we would rather have keyboards available on a regular basis. Like that's kind of always been our dream. I mean, not always been our dream, but like we're excited about the idea of like if we could have like a monthly release, I think that would be awesome. We'd be much more excited about that, both as a company, because like frankly, I mean, for anyone watching, if you've run a company, like imagine you're a company that only makes money every 6 months. like that's a pretty hard company to run, right? Because like there's a lot of planning that goes into making sure that like you're doing okay for that 6 months before you're making money again.
A lot of planning and a lot of nail biting at month 5.5.
Right,
When you're
exactly.
like, ooh.
Right. So like I think that having a regular cadence, an increased cadence of release, trying to figure out what is a level every single month that is sustainable for us, both as like individuals and as a company, that makes Keycult a company that we want to continue running now and into the future. Because like, I understand that people want our boards, but it doesn't really help like most people if we like go super hard for a year and then burn out and we're like, we're not going to do this anymore because like we're like not happy doing it or whatever.
I could make more money being a bus driver.
Yeah,
Zach could go
right.
back
Or
to
a professional athlete.
Well,
Yeah,
you got to be able to afford your steak, avocado, pickled onion,
Right, exactly.
pickled onion,
Right.
feta cheese salads.
Right,
Like
that's
those aren't cheap.
So
But if you guys are typing on the Keycult, just know that you made Zach and Jorge's. I always want to say Jorge. I'm sorry, George's. Zach and George's
You can say Jorge.
stomach.
That is in fact his name.
That's what my mom calls me. So you and my mom.
Well,
see, we're Texas boys.
it's
George with a J
yeah,
is Jorge.
that's Jorge.
Jorge,
Yep.
yeah, Jorge's fine. I turn around for both.
So this is one because this is something that's actually like strange to me right now. Is it weird seeing so many Keycults out in the wild? Because I don't know about you guys in chat, but it's strange. There are so many Keycults out now. Like every time I open my phone, it's like there's like 4 or 5 because the 160 and the 165, those, I mean, you said earlier it was what, 40 boards? There were not a lot of those around.
Right, you don't see them posted or anything.
You don't see them posted very often.
Yeah.
Now it's like every other post, I'm like, oh shit, more and more. Like
Yeah.
this is really cool. And I was,
It's
I don't
nice.
know.
We've
It's
always
just strange.
We've always been like, one thing that has definitely changed about Keycult, I guess, is that, for better or worse, I obviously think it's for better. Maybe some people think it's for worse. Like Keycult has also, like, we're a business, but we've also somewhat become a community. Like we have now, given our Discord, we talked about this before the stream actually started, because you had to join our Discord to join the raffle, our Discord size like doubled. But even before that, like for as far as like mechanical keyboard Discords go, like we had a pretty large Discord, a pretty active community. We have a pretty active community on Twitch. We have people who we talk to on like a regular basis. And some of them are people who have our keyboards, and some of them are people who don't even have our keyboards, but just like what we're doing, like what we stand for, and like want to be a part of that community. So I guess like it doesn't feel so different for me really, because I already felt like I already saw a bunch of Keycult stuff, because the primary community at this point that I consider myself a part of is like the Keycult community. So I saw a lot of Keycult stuff because I've like, again, for better or worse, like am primarily a part of the Keycult community that has sort of grown up around what we are doing. But yes, when you do go out onto the wider internet, there are quite a few more Keycult keyboards available out there than there were previously. And it's cool. I mean, it feels good because it's like like I know that we are nowhere near meeting the number of people who want to have one of our keyboards, but it feels good to like it feels nice that in like one fell swoop we have more than doubled the number of people who have a Keycult keyboard. Like that feels like a good thing, right? There's like at least twice as many people now who have one of our keyboards, and like when we ship 600 more number ones, we're going to kind of do it again.
Basically,
it's going to kind of double it again.
It's going to be like a 46% increase or something like that. It's going to be insane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to kind of happen again. And I expect at some point we're going to sell more number 2s as well. And that's going to go from being the super niche thing that like, again, it's going to be like a lot more people have access to it. And we're, like, and again, I don't know if that's going to happen through like a 600 unit group buy, or if it's going to happen through like us making keyboards ourselves and like having 100 released every month for 6 months or something like that. But I do think that it does feel good to have more of our stuff out there. It feels like we're making steps in the right direction to like meeting the to kind of answering the enthusiasm that we've received. And it sucks that it's taken, a year and a half to kind of start answering that enthusiasm. And in the meantime, so much more enthusiasm has popped up that it feels like we're kind of being mown over by it. But like, regardless, it does feel good.
And saying that stuff and like saying like, oh, it feels bad, kind of feels like, oh, it's so hard to deal with this overwhelming success.
Right.
It's like,
I mean, yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely like our community is like super great, and it has grown a lot, and we really appreciate it.
And we are doing our best to like, I think that, I don't know, I feel like it's a trap to just do, like, we joke about like, oh, we just got 5,000 entries, like let's just sell 5,000 keyboards or something like that. But it's like, we can't do it. Like, that would just be the end of our lives, right? Like, and I
see you guys next year.
right.
Yeah, and that's the other, like, I did a run of 20 boards, right? That took up half of my den. Like, I can't imagine doing 600.
Boards
That
are
would be
big.
They're big. And then they have to be sent over in a way that they're not going to get damaged, in shipping.
Right.
So that's double that size.
Right.
So these, it's
I honestly like
the whole. Why don't you just increase the amount? It's like there's not space. Space costs
like,
money.
Let me look for those keyboards in the space for us.
And thank God we got the larger space that we did get, because the space that we're in right now is like,
we were like, there's no way we're gonna be able to fill that up.
Yeah, like the space, like the square footage of the office and warehouse that we're renting right now is like twice that of what we were originally looking for. And then we were having trouble finding small spaces. This was about the smallest that we could find. And like, man, what a great stroke of luck that we couldn't find anything smaller, because we would be absolutely screwed.
So like, one thing that has put a huge amount of respect in my heart is like what like Rama and like Novel Keys and like Dixie and all these people who are fulfilling like thousands and thousands and thousands of orders. Like, I honestly don't know how they do it, because it's like I would go crazy if it would just be like, today, like yesterday, like last week, like last month, I am fulfilling hundreds of orders. That is just like, it is such a, like, logistics is hard, and that's why companies like Amazon are the biggest companies in the world. It's because they have figured out logistics.
Mm-hmm.
And huge kudos to the like keyboard companies who operate in this space, who can like fulfill and handle thousands and thousands of orders, because that's definitely not, at our current scale, it's definitely not us.
Well, it's also like, I was just say it's also.
I was just gonna say. Sorry, you go. Yeah, my bad.
I was just.
I was just gonna say that thing about
No, it's crazy to think that they're fulfilling all of those orders and like also doing other things and still having time to do other things, like Dixie with Bauer and designing key sets, and then Mike with doing all the stuff he does with designing switches, creating new switches, as well as different boards. It's just nuts.
So I am just going to say, Dixie said in chat that he has an amazing wife, and we do too have amazing wives and amazing family who without whom the last month would have been even worse. Like, we have had multiple like mini person fulfillment lines set up, including our unpaid family member, pseudo employees or whatever, who are like helping us get through this stuff. It definitely isn't. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of. It's more than just the two of us, for sure.
That's what I was gonna say. Is as Gringo64 says, "Hooray for wives!" Wives, this everything. Yeah. Like our 24-hour streams, nothing without my wife.
Yeah, behind
we wouldn't eat. We'd just be ordering like Chick-fil-A 14 times. Yeah, just continually ordering. But yeah, it's always there are a lot of unsung heroes in the keyboard community, I think. So I don't know what the opposite of put an F in the chat is. Osiris, what's the opposite of put an F in the chat?
Poggers.
Poggers. Put a poggers in the chat, or just give me a yeehaw in the chat.
For all the unpaid friends, wives, partners who have helped.
The W, there you go.
Yeah.
All of the behind the scenes people that are just like, Sure, I help.
Yeah.
So there it is. Let's see. Is there? I know you talked about the posts. So far, has there anything that you've seen that you would love to do different? That you'd love, looking for the next run of 160s and 165s? Anything different that you're looking at?
Honestly, honestly, we probably haven't had time to think about it. I think
we
that
haven't at all.
after every run, we kind of do like a little postmortem, and we haven't had time for it. And with the 160, it's particularly unique because we are doing this run at a very new phase in our business. Like before, with the number twos and the number ones and all of that before stuff, like it was basically, we are done with this. Now there is downtime. Let us think about what we can do better. And with the 160, for the first time in our business, it definitely feels like we are done with this. Holy crap, there's so much more shit to do. We need to really get to that other stuff.
On to the next.
Yeah, so like we have the 265 that is going on. We have to do design changes to the number 3. We want to work on these other projects and stuff that we can't talk about because it's super secret.
Super secret.
Super secret.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the number 160 is going to be is an interesting run because it's at a time in our business where we need to, and we absolutely should, make the time to analyze what could have been done differently and what could have been done better. Whereas with our previous runs, that time just kind of presented itself.
So that's a question better asked in 3 to 4 weeks.
when Jorge's thumbs are back to functioning.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, all I can think about is the pain in his thumbs.
Yeah.
It's just
From all the boxes. I'm surprised you don't have more like cardboard cuts and stuff going on.
Our boxes are, I actually so I have a lot of cuts, but that's mostly from the CNC machine because it's
sharp metal.
Sharp metal is very sharp.
Sharp metal is very
so
True.
I think,
can we get a Keycult shirt that just says sharp metal is very sharp?
Copyright. This is a verbal copyright. So I don't have a lot of cardboard cuts, but yeah, it's definitely it's been an interesting run so far.
I'm looking at my hands for cuts. I went through a period where I constantly had little cuts on my hands, and then my wife was complaining that I constantly had little cuts on my hands and that I needed to take better care of myself, and so I started doing that. And
I know
thankfully,
for a fact the only reason Allie married you is for your beautiful hands.
I know it's for the beautiful hands. Yeah,
love it first hands.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk. The last thing we'll talk about with the 160, 165. We had a new raffle system. Yeah, let's dive into that. I know
all of this.
I'm sure you're so tired of being told I hate bots, and you have bots. So
yeah,
let's talk about that.
Preface all of this to huge shout out to one of the most active members of our community, Koi. This is his program. We are super excited to be using it, and so raffling is a thing that takes a ton of time, a ton of effort, a ton of headache, and just having something to facilitate that has been really huge. He's already thinking of ways to make it better, which is crazy, and he is like a machine. Thank you so much for that. I think that there's no humanly possible way that you can stop people from being dicks completely. I think that this is, let me just public service announcement. There is no way that you can stop, short of completely inconvenient things. It's like you need to mail us a ticket, and then someone would find a way to duplicate the unique ticket and the hologram that we're going to attach to the ticket There's just no way for us to prevent every single
It's a
person.
pretty bad idea, to be honest. I've
It's a
already
terrible
thought
idea.
I've already gamed that system.
So it's like, like the only thing that we can do is like within reason and without giving ourselves and our customers a huge amount of work. How can we make this as hard to dupe and circumvent as possible? And I think that this is like a good system. It's not perfect, for sure, and I think that it could be better, like everything. But it is a really good way to sort of like add a bunch of barriers to people like arbitrarily either going to a site and Googling Shopify bot or going in or like adding a bunch of stuff to a Google form or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the evidence that we have, so we're working on, I mean, there's only so much that you can gather from raffle entries. We're not going to go into too much detail on like exactly what systems we use in order to identify like people who are trying to game the system. But the evidence that we have is that the situation was better, like, or rather less worse. Like that there were fewer bad actors in this raffle than there have been in any of our past raffles. And I think a large part of that is the way that this new system works. We'll continue to work and improve it. I do think that in general, the experience for most people just entering the raffle, from what I've heard, has just been a lot better. Like it's much more pleasant to have a 12-hour period to enter a raffle than to have to like, really quickly and with a huge amount of anxiety fill out something in 3 minutes or whatever and submit it.
Yeah.
So I think that overall it was a lot more chill. It was a lot more pleasant for most people who are entering it. And it seems like the systems that we have in place did at least as good of a job and likely a better job than the systems we had in place previously, with that much more narrow entry window. So I'm really happy about it. I think that there are things that Coy and I are already talking about that may be improved or changed for next time. But as George said, like I understand that when people complain about people sort of scamming the system or whatever, like it's coming from, I mean, I guess I'm going to say like it's coming from a good place.
Yeah,
it's like
sure.
you want the system to be fair and you are frustrated that it's unfair, or that it can be made unfair. And like the unfortunate reality is that like everything in life to a certain degree is kind of unfair, and that there are only a certain number of practical things that can be put into effect in order to make it more fair. And that's just like all of life. And so we are doing all of the things that we think is practical to make our raffles as fair and pleasant for people who enter them as possible. And as we think of more practical things, we will continue to do those as well.
And honestly, like I can't think, ever since we started talking about this, I've been trying to think of like a limited thing that you have to like enter to get that someone hasn't complained about it being unfair. Like even like Comic-Con tickets are like people complain about that. And so it's like I just feel like there is no counterexample to like this is how you do it perfectly, short of like gladiatorial arena and the last 100 people standing get a keyboard, which I personally feel is unreasonable. So
sign me up. And the only person that I'm
like,
afraid of is Wickham's and Luke Barron, and I'm like, I'll take third. I mean, Luke's getting number one regardless, but I just appreciate that the 12-hour window is great because that and it also the whole world gets the 12 hours.
Yeah.
So
12
if you slept through the raffle, then you have other things you need to get in check before you buy a keyboard.
Spend that money on a doctor.
But moving on to something that has, I guess, not really a whole lot to do with keyboards, but it seems like everyone that's in keyboards is pretty much in love with, and that is coffee. How did the coffee by Keycult come out?
Yeah, that again, huge shout out to Koi. So we have a really active coffee cult community on our Discord.
The reason we say Coffee Cult is because that's literally the name of the channel.
Yeah,
The Discord channel is Coffee Cult. Yeah.
it's coffee cult. And even to the point like today, like after work, people were like making espresso shots and sort of talking behind the science of espresso making and like streaming on Discord. So if you are interested in coffee, our Discord is a very good place to be. And we kind of love doing cool things for our community, and that was one of the things that like was brought up. It's like, hey, what if we do like a custom blend of coffee for the coffee cult people? And Koi has this roaster nearby in Colorado, and he suggested them, and he reached out to them, and they were game. And we tasted a fair bit of their coffee.
Yeah.
And we kind of landed on one that we really really liked, and that was the Coffee Cult #1. So that was our first Coffee Cult release. And yeah, it was really fun, and it was, you know, like
it was pretty pleasant, honestly. That was another thing too, is that like as far as Keycult releases go, I would say that the Coffee Cult #1 release is probably the least stressful product release that we've ever had.
Yeah, easy on the thumbs.
I think that it's pretty easy on the thumbs. It's pretty hard for bags of coffee to get dented in transit, so it's easy. Yeah, the boxing that you need is a little more minimal.
And it sold out in like 3 or 4 hours.
And it sold out in 3 or 4 hours, and it wasn't a huge amount. I think we sold like 60 bags of beans or something like that. But like 50 pounds or something, I think it was. 60 pounds. So I don't know. It was I liked it. I wasn't really a part of the planning for it. It was all George and a lot of Koi as well. He really was the one who did the legwork of getting us in touch with the roaster and helping kind of facilitate sending us stuff. But we have a number of different. We have a couple. I guess I would say there's like sort of two. Maybe is the photography.
It's getting bigger. I think
we have a few sort of little like niche communities inside the Keycult Discord that we've sort of like added as kind of like when we see conversation picking up. Like we don't have for as large as our sort of channel is, like we don't have that many text channels in our Discord. And most of the ones that aren't just like general keyboard discussion come out of like just when we see that there are enough people who share a hobby, we like make a discussion channel for them to be in. And so one of them was Coffee Cult. We have one for photography. We have one for machining because we like machining. We like machining, and we've attracted there's now like, a fair number of like other machinists who, and in general, I think just like people in the keyboard hobby really like seeing how things are made.
Yeah, there needs to be the next channel you hear it here first. Casey Weeks, is everyone ready? Is an audio channel because there's been a lot of audio files.
I know there audio. Yeah, there's a lot of audiophilia in this.
That's something I have done everything, and I'm just like, nope, I'm good. I'm good. Like, I like my headphones. I'm happy. I'm happy. Right. I don't.
We're need headphone pros, Chewy.
Well, ooh, hell yeah! See, I already have another expensive hobby. I really, really can't afford another one.
Yeah. Between photography and keyboards, that's pretty much it.
And then I spend too much money on shoes, but it's a thing.
I'm rocking these.
Do you even know what they are?
No, I bought them at REI.
REI special.
Vask.
A simplistic man. I enjoy that.
Hiking shoes.
So guys, we're going to open up the chat for questions. Please at Mex on Deck and then ask the question. And we will read it as they come on in. It is just easier for us to read it when you do hit the @Mex on Deck. We did have a question a long time ago from Janky Render on just general 265 updates.
So we have made some really good progress on the actual machining. Like previously, the machining was fine, but it required a fair amount of hand finishing to just sort of smooth out machining marks and get it to the point where it actually like looked like a good, perfectly smooth contour. I have since completely changed the way that we're milling it, just like the strategy for milling it is now much, much better. There's still a few little tweaks that I think could be made to improve it. But the machining is coming along very, very well. Additionally, we have some good news. I don't want to like overpromise and then underdeliver, but we have been working very consistently with a number of different potential finishing options, either Cerakote or anodizing. And there is a Cerakote applicator who we've been talking to who we're particularly excited about, who we got a really good test part from that we are going to do some more tests with. And it's very possible that the first 265s that we release will be Cerakoted instead of anodized. We think that Cerakote is a very cool coating, but it also has its own share of trouble. Like anodizing there are pros and cons to anodizing. There are pros and cons to Cerakote. And Cerakote is a hand-applied process that has a lot of room for error and honestly requires a lot of like trial in order to figure out how to correctly coat certain types of parts. And we found someone who seems to be really excited about figuring it out and doing it really well. So we are continuing to talk to a number of different finishing suppliers, but we are extremely eager to be selling keyboards that we're making ourselves, because that would make us happy. So, I mean, it is I guess I'll just, say we as a business, I don't know if you know this, but we need to sell keyboards in order to survive.
Zach, that's a trade secret.
No, we literally have to sell.
Stop it.
No, we have.
You're letting our competition know.
We have to sell keyboards in order to keep going. So we really want to do it. And yeah, we've made good progress, but I don't know that it's anything. I don't know that it's anything concrete enough yet that I want to overshare.
Yeah.
But we're working on it on a daily basis, basically.
So Nathan asks, is there any plans for a Keycult number 160/65 Rev 2?
Insofar that plans mean want, yes. If it means solid plans, it's scheduled for X date, no, there's no plans.
Yeah, we'll almost certainly do. I don't think there's a single board that we have released that we don't expect to release again at some point in the future. When
Except
that
that
happens, what?
Except that one.
Oh yeah, but we don't talk about that one.
Not
So
since
any
the
board that we've
incident.
released, we expect to do another release at some point, but we don't quite know when.
Christopher asks, is George supposed to be pronounced like George or in the traditional way like Jorge?
George or Jorge?
It's both. So my given name by my mommy is Jorge. And that's what she calls me, and that's what all of my family called me. But when I first moved here, let's put it nicely and say that a lot of people had a lot of trouble pronouncing my name correctly. And due to that trouble, it led to a small amount of bullying because of a syllable that sounds like a word that you would call a lady in very unkind terms. And then I kind of moved to George. So my family calls me Jorge, but my friends and my wife call me George.
For what it's worth, we don't call him George so that we don't bully him. I would be fine calling him Jorge, but I've always known him. He first introduced himself as George. So
yeah. And when my parents want to make fun of me for being too much of a gringo, they call me George.
Yeah.
It's funny. You can't win in that way.
Yeah.
No, I can't
win.
I mean, I'm too Hispanic for the white people, too white for the Hispanic people. It's no winning.
Just caught in the middle. Caught in the middle.
Yep.
Sir Knighting asks, what is the craziest finish you can see being reasonably offered consistently for keyboards?
Craziest? It depends on what you mean by crazy. Like crazy as in things I think are cool. Probably DLC coding. I think is really, really cool. And I would really like to do it as a regular thing. Things like
that's diamond light carbon for anyone curious.
Yeah, it's like a PVD process. You can look it up. Things like custom anodizing, like what was done on the Tfue board and stuff like that, just is very, very cost prohibitive and is not something that we'll ever really offer as in a batch, because then those keyboards would cost over $1,500 each, even if we made like 100 of them. So I don't think that it's reasonable to do things like that. But there are a lot of like really, really. I think that there's a really good potential in like in upping our tolerances and doing things with powder coat. I think that powder coat has a lot of really cool different colors and applications. Like if you've never been on like prismatic powders, you absolutely should. They have so many cool finishes. Like Cerakote, I think has immense potential for the keyboard community, but you just need to find an applicator who is reliable and consistent, which is hard. And anyone who's ever done Cerakote for keyboards can tell you it's very hard. So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff out there.
We got Hug Fan Jen. I think I'm saying that right. Are you aiming to go for monthly raffles in 2020?
We would like to.
Yeah, our plan is that our goal for the 265 and for things that we're making ourselves is to be operating on roughly a monthly schedule where like it's obviously going to take some time to spend up, but our idea is that we make as many parts, as many keyboards as we can in a month. We send all those out to whatever finishing option we're going to be using for that month, whether that's Cerakote or anodizing or whatever. We start making parts for the next month. When eventually those come back, like we sell them. And eventually, if we keep doing that, there will be sort of a monthly release of whatever we made. So our ultimate goal is that there will be roughly monthly releases. One of the reasons that we also are moving to this sort of newer style raffle software that we're working with Koi on is that our plan is for things like the 265. For instead of it being individual raffles, it will be something more like a perpetual raffle, where you enter once and you are kind of entered for the 265 raffle for any month. So any month we might like choose 100 people from the pool and offer them the board that is available for that month. And they can either take it or maybe pass it on if they don't like it or something like that.
And something that someone in chat was saying, it's like, oh, will you ever give weight to people who haven't won in a while? Then something like that is a situation in which we might be able to weigh people who have been in the raffle for a long time without winning a little more. I'm not promising anything.
I don't think we're going to do that
loud. I'm thinking out loud.
You're giving people hope, George.
Oh my God.
Don't give them hope.
First, we gave them our flawless business plan for selling keyboards to make money, and now I'm giving them hope. This is a rough interview, guys.
Where were you guys when Keycult died? Because I was right here.
Yeah, right.
Take a picture.
Dude, you're giving us a great thumbnail for the YouTube video.
No hope.
Keycult died today.
I too was here.
Top Clack, thank you for the tier 1 for 11 months. Saying I too is here. What are both of y'all's first keyboard?
First, like, good keyboard or first keyboard?
Just do first keyboard. I mean, well, first custom.
like
first,
a Hewlett Packard.
like mechanical,
first custom, like first mechanical keyboard.
Oh yeah, Zach gave me
a TX87.
A TX87
for his birthday.
For my birthday, which is
it's
also
a good birthday gift.
That's true. Yeah, fun fact: George and I have the same birthday, 3 years apart, but same birthday.
It's awesome.
Meant to be.
Yeah. We're adorable.
My first mechanical keyboard was a Cooler Master Quickfire Rapid. My first mechanical keyboard mod was swapping it from browns to Ergo Clears.
Fancy.
Oh yeah, real fancy. I bet there aren't that many people rocking Ergo Clears in their QFR anymore.
You know, we do a keyboard of the week where we have people post things. We saw some clears. Some Ergo Clears the other, like either this week or last week, and I was like, "That is something you do not see very often."
You don't see Ergo Clears anymore. Yeah, not really.
Holy Panda took over.
Yeah.
So let's see, where are we? When are you guys doing the full custom card deck with Billy? Asks Alex.
Oh man, I would love to do a custom card deck with Billy.
So for a little bit of context on that,
shout out to Billy French.
We work with a designer named Billy French, and he is the designer who designed the back of the QC cards that we send out with all of our keyboards. He also designed
the Coffee Cult label,
and a lot of other of the printed materials that we use. And he does a lot of stuff with cards. That's
He
why
actually
that's how we
has
found him.
I think he has a Kickstarter going.
He actually
right
might
now.
have a Kickstarter right now. You
So
should
if
go.
you're looking for a card deck, a cool card deck that's been designed by someone who worked for Keycult, join in.
Yeah. We have no plans of doing a full card deck.
MOQs are insane for card decks.
I don't think they're insane. I think it's like 1,000 decks.
No,
I mean,
it's
that's
like
a lot.
10,000.
It's not 10,000
That's
decks.
what we talked. Okay.
I swear to you that it's not.
Not
10,000.
in front of the children, Zach.
It's not 10,000. It's like 1,000.
Keycult's dying again.
So we have no plans of doing a full card deck with Billy, but I do think that some of the designs he's come up. I mean, obviously, like the QC card is based on a card. Like that was the whole idea behind it, and that's how we found him. He's also local to us. He is in Raleigh, and we wanted to work with a designer who is local to us. But if we were to ever do something like that, we would almost certainly work with Billy. But we don't have anything in the works for it right now.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Sir Knighting, for linking the project. By the way.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I think it ended.
Oh, it ended. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
No, we would have made it blow up right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually really interested in the answer to this question. NYC640 asks, given infinite resources, what would be the top on your wish list for ways to improve the business?
Oh.
Zach has a question.
Wait.
Let him tell you.
You had to say it was a way to improve the business. God.
How does
Okay.
improve this?
I already, despite having not sold a single keyboard that we've made, would love to spend a whole bunch of money on a palletized 5-axis machine that would basically allow us to more efficiently and with a better finish mill our parts and do it in a way that is automated so that it could be essentially running 24/7 without having to have like a human tending to it at all times. At the moment, when we are sort of in production mode, our CNC machine only runs about 8 hours a day because George and I are the only two like operators for it. And we aren't willing to sacrifice, like at least completely sacrifice. I mean, I will say that, George hasn't had a day off in 3 months, so I think we might somewhat sacrifice our lives, but at least we're not willing to sacrifice our sleep. Yeah. He had a day off. He had a day off a month ago to do some lawn work. So.
It's a great day.
What a day!
what a relaxing day at home.
Yeah.
Lawn.
The reason I'm answering like buy more CNC stuff is because I am a one-track person, and like
that is a hammer, and the CNC is the nail that he wants to hammer. So he just sees everything as CNC machines. It's like, my finger hurt. Put it in the CNC machine.
It is like my sort of blessing and curse, I suppose, is that like without like I think that we are the perfect complement for each other, because without the other, this business would completely fall apart. But like I have been extremely focused on the machining stuff. And so because of that, that is the thing that I immediately go towards. I think that realistically, like having...
I think that if we are talking realistically in the realm of having infinite money, I think that is because that's sort of like the context of the question. If you had infinite money.
Yeah, I guess that's true. If we had infinite money, I think we'd be making everything ourselves, basically. Yeah. I think we would be allocating that money towards everything from Keycult is made and controlled by us. That's probably what we would do with infinite money.
Yeah. Because I think that like every point of frustration has been sort of, I think that the hardest part of being someone who works for yourself and works all the time and is always kind of on work mode is the fact that the rest of the world doesn't work all the time and isn't always on work mode. So it's like I get frustrated when I email someone on Saturday and they don't get back to me until Monday afternoon.
Yeah, come on. It was their lawn mowing Saturday.
Yeah, it was their lawn mowing Saturday and Sunday. So if I had infinite resources, I would like hire a really great anodizer to set up an anodizing setup so that we could have like things so we can do like an anodizing stuff. If I had like infinite resources, I would like really invest in like and like working with a PVD coder that can like PVD our aluminum, our stainless, our brass, all this stuff. And like it's just kind of like we are in this like ugly duckling size problem where we're too big for the small people, but we're too small for the big people. So like oftentimes we either really need to like beg the big people to take us seriously, or we need to like really tell the small people like, hey, we're willing to like grow and bring you up and like invest in you so that you can handle the capacity that we're trying to do. But if we had infinite money, then that wouldn't be a problem because I could just like either do like, okay, I'm just doing it all by myself, or I could like go to the large anodizer in California and be like, okay, take me seriously. Here's $1 million.
Yeah.
But I don't have $1 million.
Take me seriously. Here's $1 million.
$1 million. Like,
that's how much
good.
it costs.
What are we doing?
Yeah,
that's what seriousness.
that's
costs.
what. It takes $1 million.
Just a cool mill slid across the table.
Cool mill. How's this $1 million bill look to you?
Now, are you taking me seriously? So, Yolkeet asked, we did kind of answer this, but was there any thoughts on adding more weight probability to the KC raffle, dependent on how many times one has lost historically? We did kind of get into that. So, but let's see.
I mean,
well, sorry.
I guess I'll say that it's certainly a thing that we've thought about, and I think that there are ways in which it is more fair and ways in which it is less fair, and probably if it's not clear to us whether or not the thing is going to be more fair, we're probably not going to do it. So at the moment, I would say we have no real plans to do something like that. But I will say that it's a thing we've thought about. We're not like ignoring that possibility, but so far we haven't drawn a like. I don't think we honestly take our raffles pretty seriously, and we know that like other people take them really seriously too. So like frankly, we're not like trying to screw around with them. We don't want to like do things that are going to totally shift the dynamic in a way that's going to like piss a bunch of people off or like break expectations in us or in the process. So we're probably not going to make a change like that unless we feel like there's a particularly compelling reason to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but it was Luminoctis, I think. Did you, Keycult, ever announce the Easter egg on the golden card?
No.
No.
All right. I like it.
All right.
What Easter egg?
Exactly. Too many trade secrets being.
Yeah. I've lost track of our trade secrets.
We can't give the whole kitchen sink away.
Yeah.
Oh man. The Gringo 064 asks, would a Variaxis i600 scratch that production itch for Keycult?
Yes, a free Variaxis i600 would absolutely scratch the production itch.
So
we promise that we would stream. We will happily put a Mazak logo on our stream. I'm just messing around.
I'm not.
Okay.
So
we're doing business right now.
Right now on Mex on Deck, Mazak, or anyone, if you want to send us any kind of free anything, let's talk.
Let's talk. Let's have a chit chat.
Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. I'm happy to wear a shirt that says "This is the best CNC machine I've ever owned," or have it in the background all the time. Every 30 minutes, it'll be Mazak hour.
Every 30 minutes, Mazak hour.
Yeah, exactly. Think of the value. If every 30
So basically,
minutes
what George is saying is that he, for sure, selling out is not beneath him. He is absolutely willing to do it.
I don't think that it's selling out.
More.
I don't think that it's selling out to say that we love the CNC machine that we got for free.
Yeah.
On stream.
Right. Dixie points out that you're becoming those Insta people who ask for free stuff.
Oh, yeah. I think that goes home. Okay. I won't take it.
Okay.
I don't think
free machine anymore.
Yeah, I feel like if someone offered you a free CNC machine, you'd probably be like, "Yes, please."
Time out.
Yeah, like okay.
Yeah. There's a reason that. Yeah, there's a it might. Yeah, I won't go into it.
I don't know. I feel like CYO Caps, who does, but if you guys haven't checked his Instagram, he posts anybody that asks for free stuff on his Instagram. He takes a screenshot and saves it as his in his stories, and his responses are so great. They're so much fun to read.
I mean, we even
Free
get
keyboard command in our
people.
Discord.
Oh yeah, we'll get people like, "Can you send us a keyboard?" I'm like, we don't.
We don't make keyboards.
Yeah.
Search of all this
But guys,
mess on
you
deck.
have them right. You talk about them every week. You don't
You
have
have
to
them
select
on
a
deck.
few.
You guys.
Right.
Yeah, dude, they're on deck always.
We've got 3 shows, and 2 of them don't even involve building a keyboard.
So, and then Biohazard asks, how'd you guys meet?
We've known each other since high school. We met in debate, high school debate. We both did public forum debate.
Which is why we're so eloquent.
Exactly. After George graduated, he was my debate coach. He was a few years ahead of me.
Yep. And then
There
he
you go.
followed me to university
Well, yeah.
like a lost puppy.
Like a lost puppy, yeah.
He made his way home.
Yeah.
So cute. You were right, George. You said you're so cute, and it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Christopher asks, are there any plans to make some more YouTube videos, or is that after the number 265 is up and going?
Go ahead. No, you should answer this.
No, please.
You're primarily responsible for videos. You should answer.
So that's kind of the answer. I'm the one who's primarily responsible for videos. I've been otherwise occupied for the last forever. We've tossed around some ideas of like how we can start doing more YouTube content, whether that's like working with an editor to like edit our VODs, or whether it's like doing more like edited content. I'm not an editor by trade. I fumble, like as you can tell from my YouTube videos, I fumble around editing. So it takes me what it would take a professional editor like 20-30 minutes. It takes me like 3 or 4 hours. So yeah, I would like to make more YouTube content because it's like I'm a creative person and I like expressing myself in that way. I think that it's really fulfilling. It really fulfills a creative itch. But it's also really time consuming, and I don't have time for a lot of hobbies right now, and that's just kind of one of them. Like videography is something that's really, really cool.
Yeah. I think we do have a plan. We would like once we have 265s like out the door and shipping, we would like to do a video that's sort of like the start to finish, like literal billets of aluminum to like completed product that kind of follows the entire process. Because I think that I mean, it would just be cool to like see every single step, every single stage that a board is in, and kind of see like what everything looks like, you know, as it moves through that entire process. I think that would be neat. We would like to do that, but we haven't done it yet because we haven't felt like we've completely finished that process. So once we have that process finished, we probably will take the time to make at least a video like that.
Yeah.
So, are you guys into artisans at all?
I like them on Instagram.
I used to be really into artisans. That was my first. I definitely. I mean, obviously, the answer is, as of recent, not as much. I primarily don't have the time and money to collect them. And the reason I say is the time. It's the time or money. Like you kind of have to have one or the other for artisans. Previously, I collected them primarily using my time. Like I never really spent a huge amount of money on artisans, but I did like have quite a lot of them because I put a lot of time and effort into collecting them. But ever since I have started running Keycult as a business, I just haven't had that time anymore, and have found that I personally am not. Well, frankly, I guess I won't say that I'm not willing to invest the money. I like to have the money to invest. So maybe if I did, you know,
if we go back to the other question where we have infinite money, maybe
right,
it would just be.
I probably have a lot more
artisans
artisans because I do think they're really cool, and I really appreciate like the effort and the artistry that goes into them for sure. And like I will occasionally like like the other day, like I saw that there was like a Bro Craps raffle that I like randomly saw and like entered for like a last pilot because I've never had a last pilot. And like if I win it, then cool. I'm sure the invoices are probably already out. And I just like have literally no time. Like when I focus on artisans is primarily that I'll like happen to see something on Instagram that's like, oh shit, that raffle's right now. Let me like try to join it really quick. But I just haven't had time to actually follow it.
And then Tommy Hyung asks, any news on another run of a number 2 TKL, or is it too soon?
No news. I think that it is sort of too soon. There's no solid plans on it at the moment. Like I don't think that we're going to be doing a. I think that right now our focus is getting the 265 kind of ready to go, and then that'll be the case for a few months, for like 3 months after we're actually selling it, and then we'll probably run up against the number 1 TKL, and then sort of after that is probably when we'll start considering something like the number 2 TKL as like a larger production run.
Stash Builds Boards asks, how did Wrist Rest QC go?
Great. It was kind of tedious because the hardware that was in the wrist rests isn't the hardware that we wanted to ship out. So we had to take the hardware off, put the new hardware in, put bump-ons on, which is probably my least favorite part of it. Putting bump-ons is the worst. Yeah, it went really well. They look really great and they're ready to ship out. And we actually started shipping them out today.
Yep.
Starstone asks, and we'll get just a couple more, but Starstone asks, you currently sponsor a few streamers. Is there a criteria for someone to be sponsored by Keycult?
So the 2 streamers that we sponsor at the moment are Apiary Keyboards and Teha Types. The real answer is that there isn't like a particular hard criteria for whether or not we like sponsor streamers. We're more likely to sponsor streamers who are building keyboards because that kind of makes sense. We'll send them keyboards that they maybe want to build. We've also like, I think that yeah, I don't know that we have like a hard criteria for it. The thing is that like we don't really have like a marketing budget. Like 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 we don't have like, it's not like, oh, we have like a marketing budget. Here's like our budget for like these 2 streamers that we're going to sponsor. It's just go ahead.
So like I think a lot more about marketing and stuff than Zach does because I really enjoy it. And that's sort of my job a little bit. And part of the reason why I haven't been more like, oh, we should sponsor more streamers is because I kind of like having a personal connection, like a more personal interaction with the streamers that we sponsor, and that like we talk a lot, or we talk a fair bit with like Teha, and we talk a fair bit with like Apiary, and like I'm constantly thinking, it's like, okay, how can I like interconnect them into our releases? I need to send them keyboards so that they can build, so that other people could see keyboards being built. And I think that kind of becomes a little more difficult if we like sort of did the spray and pray approach of like, okay, sponsor everyone, because then it's like, who do I send the keyboard to? Do I need to like? I think that sort of stuff is things that like occupy mental bandwidth that I personally don't necessarily want. So
I guess another thing that I'll say is that like it feels weird doing marketing stuff when you don't have something to sell. Like like on average, we don't have something to sell.
Yeah,
like
I
on
feel
the
like
average,
Teha and Apiary are constantly like asking us like, hey, do you guys want me to shout out anything? And we're like, nope.
Nope.
Nor do we need you
please
to.
don't mention it. Don't tell anyone. Yeah, right. Like,
So it's like we just asked them to have a moment of silence.
Exactly.
For all the lost emails.
There it is. But that's why there's it's kind of like, I feel like a lot of the term sponsorship, Cyrus and I kind of readjusted how we viewed what a sponsorship is versus a partnership. And while some there's like we don't get paid like a monthly fee by people, right? It's like, but with a partnership, it's like, hey, we'll send you some stuff. You're gonna shout out our products. Our sponsorship with Zap is like, hey, here's a cable. You use our cable. It's a good cable. Then you shout us out. It's not like Zap's just sending us a bill for a check for $1,000 every month and say our name. It's like, no, it's not like that. It's a partnership because Zap's a cool guy. We're friends with him. That's how that kind of came about. And I think that's how a lot of these partnership sponsorship deals are way more like, you're just a cool person that I don't mind sitting down and having a conversation with. And we both have something to offer each other, at some. So that's kind of where I see that as sponsorships kind of is a strange term when it comes to certain companies and certain products.
I guess I'll also say that like both Teja and Apiary are two people who are like doing this as like a full-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is like that like resonates with us as two people like also trying to make this like sort of hobby slash whatever hobby market whatever sort of like their actual full-time thing. Like it feels good to support people who are also trying to do it as a full-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is sort of more about like I think of it more as like sponsoring people who are helping to like develop the larger keyboard market and like turn the community into something that's more pleasant to be in and like just a better market for everyone as opposed to like the direct benefit to us of like, because I mean just like being blunt, we don't need more people joining our raffles right now. Like we just straight up don't. Like preferably we need fewer people joining our raffles. But like
solid business.
We need less people to want it.
But we do we need people to like continue to be like welcoming and explanatory to new people because we do expect ourselves to grow. And we think that like, and we understand that like, our customers today might not be our customers tomorrow for all sorts of various reasons. And I think that having a certain level of like churn in the market is healthy where, people sort of reach their sort of in-game board. They're no longer buying like high-end keyboards, but other people sort of see stuff being built by various streamers and become interested, and then they become our customers tomorrow. And so it's less about like trying to sell something that we have available right now and more about trying to just develop the keyboard community, the keyboard market into something that is like healthy and sustainable and allows us to continue operating as a business for the long term.
Yeah, that's it's funny. I've told this to Zap a few times, but I'm like, dude, your cables are too good because now I don't need a new one. I've got the one and it's perfect. I can't unless I intentionally damage it. Like I'm not going to be hitting you up.
Needs to be a thing on the keyboard.
Yeah. So we'll take this last one. Biohazard asks, where do you draw inspiration for your designs?
Kind of all over, to be honest. It's hard to. I wish I had a. That's always a hard question for me because like, and it's a thing that I've struggled with. It might actually be a thing that we talked about maybe on our last. I feel like there's a thing I've talked about on stream before or whatever. The idea that like I struggled for a while with the idea that like Keycult doesn't have like a house design language, right? Like RamaWorks has like a house design language, right? Like if you look at a RamaWorks product, it's a RamaWorks product. Mm-hmm. Similarly, if you look at like an Apple product, it's an Apple product. Like there are a lot of, like high-end design firms that have a house design language. And I've struggled with the fact that there isn't a house design language for Keycult necessarily. Like, I don't think that you can, maybe you can look, maybe some people, maybe it's just that we don't have like enough designs out or something like that. But like, there's no particular thing that looking at the number 2 versus looking at the number 1 that you would say like, oh yeah, these obviously came from the same designer. Mm-hmm. I think the thing that I hope like connects them is the fact that they're both well designed and well thought out and like designed with intention. So I don't know that I draw inspiration from, or that we draw inspiration from like any like particular source. It's not like, oh, we look at cars or we look at architecture or we look at other keyboards or
I look at
something like that.
architecture.
I mean, we do look, but my point
thing
is that we kind of
yeah.
look at all of these things
Yeah.
and we kind of look at none of these.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like we just look for things that we think would be compelling and would allow us to like push forward what we think the state of keyboard design is.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's hard to pinpoint like these are the things that we draw inspiration from. Hopefully that answered your question, Biohazard.
I think so. All right. Well, before we sign off too much, I want to give a quick shout out to our awesome sponsors. We have Dixie Mech. You can go to mexondec.dixiemech.com. You can pick up GMK Pono as well as GMK Minimal, Minimal V2, if you will. I've used that link. It helps out the channel a bunch.
That's a guy who has stuff to sell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dixie.
There's
sponsor.
things to sell.
Prolific is the one word I would use.
Switchmod.net /Mex on Deck gets you 4% off your orders. He does have some awesome lube stations there. So if you need a good lube station, be sure to go check that out. Project Keyboards, you can go to mexondeck.project.link, pick up GMK Sumi from now until the 15th, as well as GMK Dolch row 5 or R5. It's kind of both. So be sure to check those out, as well as there's also some other pre-orders for some of his past sets. If you haven't checked that out, go to his pre-orders page. There's some stuff you can still get. And then canonkeys.com /mexondeck. You can go pick up the Canon Keys 0 keycap set, the PBT die subset. It's a fantastic and very cool, very, very plain, awesome set for a very, very affordable price for what you're getting. So be sure to check it out, as well as our awesome partners, Zap Cables. They make the best cables. Smith and Rune. I'm very excited. I got my shipping on my pants yesterday.
Ooh.
So I'm hoping by next week I can wear some sweatpants and just die of heat during the stream. And then
Smith and Rune did sweatpants?
Dude, yeah.
Joggers, yeah.
They got
apparel.
joggers, they got
Oh,
hats.
They got hoodies, jackets.
Nice.
All that stuff. And then Type Beast, so you can go to typebea.st, who I'm sure is working on the 7th newsletter that's coming up hopefully pretty soon, because I give them all a read, because he just has a great way of wording and approaching the mechanical keyboard hobby. So,
well, again, thank you very much, Mr. Zach and George. Appreciate y'all coming on again, talking about all this stuff with your beautiful background. We appreciate y'all.
We appreciate you guys having us. Thank you so much.
Yep. Awesome being here. And now I remember for sure that I did have a good time last time we were on the show, and I also had a good time this time.
Well, good. That means we
yeah,
succeeded at least somewhat.
Even though Keycult died here today, and it's just going to slowly start falling. No, but let's see. We got.
I know who we're gonna raid.
Who are we raiding?
We're raiding Mentorly because of what she's building.
Oh yeah, well then that just.
She's building a modern M0110, which holds a interesting place in Chewy's heart.
It'll be here Friday.
The first board
took 25 months.
The first group buy he ever signed up for.
First keyboard group buy.
Yeah.
So everyone, let Mentorly know that Keycult is sending you, not Mex on Deck. Keycult.
Keycult.
Well, is that what we should say? Keycult sent us.
No, you don't have to do that.
Just R.I.P. Keycult. Keep it nice.
R.I.P. Keycult.
Oh, I like the R.I.P. Keycult. That'd be pretty funny.
All right, so we're going
to we give permission for RIP Keycult. All right, nice.
So thank you guys very much, guys. Good luck with your future W's on future Keycult, and hopefully you guys can get some of these awesome boards. And thank you again for joining us again.
Thank you again,
Jorge. I hope your phone's better, man. Hope your
they're great. They're super swole.
See y'all next time.
Bye now.